10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 487. Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 in our series on advanced bebop scale exercises. Last week we talked about some really cool perpetual motion exercises starting on all the different chord tones for dominant bebop scales, but today we're going to move on to some major bebop scales and envision some different ways of manipulating these with the ultimate goal to create more familiarity and the ability to manipulate these sounds freely. Before we get into this episode of the podcast, just wanted to let you know that there will always be a video version of the podcast over on my YouTube channel. And in order to find that, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to YouTube and just search for Nick Manella, and it will be the latest video on my channel. This is a great way to see all of the visual references that I am referring to throughout the episode. And also, you can support this podcast and the YouTube channel. We are listener supported, which means that we don't do any advertisements or anything like that. Instead, we just rely on people like you that get something out of this to support us in the form of a monthly donation. And in return for that donation, you get all of the supporting materials for every single episode, meaning PDFs, any backing tracks or trading tracks, and other goodies. You can find a link to my online jazz education platform called Jazz School also in the description of this episode. Once you sign up to become a member of Jazz School, which is free, by the way, you'll find instructions on how to sign up to get all of the materials. So head over there, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you. So I hope to see you there, and if you choose to support us, thank you very, very much. We could not do this without you. Okay, on to the episode. Okay, so let's start with just a little review on what the major bebop scale is. So in the dominant bebop scale, we had the passing tone between the root and the flatted seventh. In the major bebop scale, we have the passing tone between 6 and 5. So we just want to be familiar with that, right? Before we get going, we want to make sure that we can understand and pull that off. And again, as a preliminary exercise for everything I'm about to show you today, I would just make sure that you can, in a very basic format, play that scale from each chord tone. So I just did it from the root. You would want to make sure that you could also go up and do it from the third. Go up to the fifth. And then here is the weird one, because as we're going to see today, these scales work really, really well over a major 6 chord or a major 7 chord, but we're going to consider, for the purposes of this scale, our 4th chord tone to be the 6. So in concert C, that would be A. You'd want to make sure you can do it from the 6th as well, but here's the weird part. Even though I start from the 6th, on these scales, and this is just my personal way of doing things, you can do it however you want, I like to come all the way down to the 5th at the bottom of the scale. It just sounds better to my ears to come to rest on the 5th and extend that scale a little bit rather than the 6th. And you're going to see that a lot in the exercises. I'm going to actually choose different chord tones when I start on the 6th, but here's how I would play the descending scale starting on the 6th. Most of the time, I go with what my ear wants, and my ear definitely wants me to go down to the 5th there. Okay, so just make sure you can do those basic descending scales starting on each one of those chord tones. And let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So one thing that I have benefited a ton from when it comes to working on these scales is direction change in the middle of an exercise. Because if all we do is just practice these scales descending all the time, we're really limiting ourselves because we're not always going to want to play descending lines. We're going to want to play ascending lines. And actually, this episode and the one I'm going to come out with next week are going to be all about what do you play when you want to ascend. And I think one of the most basic ways to get used to direction changes within these lines is to simply pick an arbitrary number of notes that you want to play up before you turn around and come down. And it illuminates a lot of things about these scales so that we can develop even more and more flexibility with these. So the first exercise that I've got prepared for you today is something that I do in my practice all the time, which is, again, I come up with that arbitrary number of notes. So in this one, I'm going to go up 2 notes from where I started. Then I'm going to turn around and come down. And like I said in the introduction, I'm basically going to do that just starting on every chord tone. So if I do it from the root, see how I went up 2 notes, then I came all the way down. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the third. Same thing on the fifth. Okay, so now I'm going to start on the 6th. Notice that I've manipulated the end of it, right? Because I said when I start on the 6th, I actually like to end on something other than the 6th. So you see there, I ended on the root. That's just what my ear wanted me to do. Okay, let's check out the entire exercise. 1, 2, So again, I'm just not allowing myself to stop. I have to keep going, which means I really, really have to know how to manipulate this exercise. I'm just sort of forcing myself not to stop and think about what I'm doing. All right, so let's go on to exercise number 2, which you will notice has the same DNA as exercise number 1, but what's different about it? So you probably spotted it. It's very easy to spot. I just put that little 16th note triplet flip in the middle of it, which is such an important element of the bebop style. We talked about that last week as well. So I'm just carrying that over into these other exercises because it doesn't affect where all the notes line up. It's just adding a bit of excitement to the middle of the line. So one more time on this one. I love the sound of that. An exercise like this, where I was forcing myself to do all these 16th note triplets, it just made it come out so much more in my actual solos because I just started hearing them everywhere. And it wasn't that awkward to do them because I had practice them a whole bunch. Now, something I didn't mention on the last video because I wanted you to just understand sort of like the theory behind the thing. It's really important that you play these with the correct style. So I'm going to play these one more time for you, this particular exercise. And I want you to think about a couple of things. I want you to think about note length, and I want you to think about what notes I'm accenting and what notes I'm swallowing or ghosting. And if you're practicing these exercises and you got all of the notes correct, but you still feel like there's something missing, it doesn't sound quite right, you should really start thinking about the articulation, the note length, and the accent versus ghost part of playing this. 1, 2, Really, once you get the notes correct, it's all in that style. And as soon as you have the notes and the patterns down, you really need to start dialing in that style. Now, I could go through and talk about every note, what I'm accenting, what I'm swallowing, but it's better to just listen and try to recreate. That's going to get you a lot further than, trying to write everything in. You got to actually use your ears and keep pressing it until you think it sounds indicative of your favorite musicians. Imagine that you need to sound exactly like Charlie Parker or Dexter Gordon or Clifford Brown while you're playing these exercises. What would it sound like if one of those musicians were playing these exercises? And that will get you really far. Because the note stuff, anybody can learn that. The people that will really benefit from this and get better fast are the people that are thinking about the style. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's do one more exercise. So on this one, I'm going to extend the distance that I'm going up before I turn back around. So in this one, I'm going to go up 5 notes, and then I'm going to turn around and come down. Do you notice that 2 of these have chromaticism in them, and then the other 2, they don't? They're totally diatonic. I think this is such an important aspect of working on this stuff and manipulating these scales, is going, well, even though I'm working on this scale with a passing tone, it's actually not always correct to use it, because it would actually defeat the purpose. It would take my strong notes and put them on weak beats if I used the chromatic passing tone. Now, again, you could definitely figure out a way to use the chromatic passing tone in every single exercise, but you would really have to sit down and work out how to structure that exercise so that you can incorporate the chromaticism. But on its most basic level, I actually don't need to use the chromaticism. And if you look at the exercise, it's all chord tones on strong beats. And remember, the 6th and the major 7th, I'm sort of considering both of those to be chord tones. Okay, so just a reminder, if you want to support the channel, make sure that I can keep putting stuff out like this and get a PDF of all these exercises along with a backing track to practice them along with. You could do that by hitting the link in the description, coming and joining my online jazz education platform, Jazz School. It's totally free to join, poke around in there, and then if you want the materials, there'll be instructions in there on how to sign up to support the channel with a very small monthly donation. And you'll get materials with every single video and episode that I put out. Got a whole bunch of people over there supporting us already. Thank you so much to everybody that's doing that. I couldn't do this without you. And if you choose to support us, thank you. Really means a lot to me. And it'll ensure that I can keep doing this into the future. So next week, we're going to switch to yet a different form of the bebop scale, the minor bebop scale. And we're going to investigate how we can harness the power of arpeggios to further our abilities with this sound. As always, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.